More cold weather in Hong Kong today. Senior Beijing official in charge of Hong Kong affairs stresses the need for patriotism. Judges rule against Jimmy Lai's lawyers as Lai's national security case continues. Hello and welcome to TVB News. With a few days until Christmas, Hong Kong is experiencing some chilly weather. The cold weather warning issued by the observatory is in force. A record low temperature of 8.6 degrees Celsius was recorded on the morning of winter solstice. Mimo Singai reports.
Trees were swinging under the strong wind. Despite the chilly weather, some residents continued their routines in Hong Kong. Some went for a run, while others chose to dip into the cold water. This swimmer said the cold does not bother him. I think the temperature is acceptable. It is slightly cold when the wind hits, he said. Numerous districts in the city recorded single-digit temperatures today. In some urban areas, the minimum recorded temperatures were between 8 and 9 degrees Celsius, while at Tai Mo Shan, the highest peak in the city, reported temperatures as low as minus 1.6 degrees, the sixth lowest temperature reported in the area in December since records began in 1996. Tai Can and Phnom Penh reported an average temperature of 2.3 degrees. Meanwhile, some Tai Mo Shan walking trails were closed to the public after a hiker called for help on Thursday night. This family of four decided to challenge themselves by doing a winter solstice hike. They prepared cup noodles and hot drinks to enjoy. We plan to hike for 2 to 3 hours, this woman said. The observatory said the chilly and windy weather will remain throughout the weekend and Christmas holidays. Temperatures will recover to around 14 degrees in the middle of next week. Mimos 9, TVB News.
In a speech at a seminar celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director Xia Baolong called on all sectors of the SAR to support the government in implementing Article 23 of the Basic Law. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies in Beijing, Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director Xia Baolong delivered a speech in which he emphasized love of the motherland has long been an honorable tradition in Hong Kong. Xia stressed the people of Hong Kong's patriotism forms an important foundation for the implementation of the one country, two systems principle. The Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director also reiterated his firm support for the Chief Executive and the SAR's legal system, and their efforts in combating anti-China and separatist forces. He reminded Hong Kong's 180,000 civil servants to serve the SAR with a sense of responsibility. Xia added lawmakers should raise the standard of their political work. Xia also mentioned the newly elected district councillors must create a new start and foster better cooperation between the government and residents. On matters relating to national security, Xia said the implementation of Article 23 of the Basic Law must be completed to ensure security and stability. He called upon all sectors to support this task and create a better future for the city, and stressed Hong Kong will always have the firm support of the mainland. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The government invited all district councillors designate to watch the live broadcast of Xia Baolong's speech at the Central Government Complex. Chief Executive John Lee said he looks forward to new district councillors gaining a better understanding of the tasks and requirements of patriot governance of the city. Those who participated in the event today include Hong Kong Liaison Office Director Zheng Yangxiong, as well as the Chief Executive. In a blog post on social media, the CE said the new district councillors will restore the essence of the district councils and ensure the continuation of patriot governance in Hong Kong. A court today upheld a sedition charge against former media tycoon Jimmy Lai after the defense argued the charge did not come within the 6-month statute of limitations for sedition offenses. The trial of Jimmy Lai continued today at the West Kowloon Magistrates Court. There was again a heavy police presence outside the court. There was disagreement between the prosecution and defense on the first day of the trial about whether the sedition charge imposed on Lai came after the 6-month statute of limitations for relevant prosecutions had expired. In the trial today, the 3 national security judges, Esther To, Susana Delmada Remedios, and Alex Lee, are agreed with the prosecution's views, who argued the charge was imposed within the 6-month period. The trial is adjourned until January 2nd. 2 appellate proceedings in the Court of Final Appeal will be live-streamed online as a trial run next month. The 2 hearings are on the 10th and 16th of January. The hearings can be viewed on the court's website. After the hearings, video recordings will be available on the website for a period of time. The judiciary reminds the public not to record the live webcast or use the live broadcast recording for any unauthorized purposes. Talks between the top brass of the Chinese and U.S. militaries have resumed. Liu Zhenli, chief of the Joint Staff Department of the Central Military Commission, took part in a video conference with the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chairman Charles Brown. Liu said he hopes the 2 sides can begin dialogue and cooperation on the basis of equality and respect. Timothy Lee reports.
On Thursday, the Central Military Commission's chief of the Joint Staff Department, Liu Zhenli, and U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Charles Q. Brown Jr. conducted a landmark meeting via teleconference. Liu noted the meeting between the presidents of China and the U.S. at the APEC summit in San Francisco restored communication between the 2 countries' militaries. He said both parties reached a consensus of stabilizing the bilateral relationship and further developing healthy ties between the 2 militaries.
This is the first time the 2 leaders have spoken since General Brown became the chairman. During the teleconference, General Brown discussed the importance of working together to responsibly manage competition, avoid miscalculations, and maintain an open and direct line of communication.
Liu stressed further development of the relationship can only continue on the premise that Washington respects and develops a correct understanding of China's core national interests. Liu reiterated the Taiwan issue is an internal affair of China and that Beijing objects to any foreign interference. He added Washington should respect China's territorial and maritime sovereignty in the South China Sea. Communications between the 2 militaries were suspended when former U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan last August. It wasn't until last month when President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden met at San Francisco's APEC summit, where the 2 agreed to restore high-level talks between both nations' armed forces.
习近平主席同美国总统拜登旧金山会晤期间
In Beijing, Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Wang Wenbin said the central government hopes the 2 nations will fully implement the agreements made during last month's APEC summit. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
China, the world's top processor of rare earths, has banned the export of technology to make rare earth magnets. Thursday's ban followed the introduction of export permits for chip-making materials gallium and germanium in August, and similar requirements for several types of graphite since December 1st. China's Commerce Ministry sought public opinion last December on the move, which aims to protect national security and public interest. This comes with the West seeking to rival China's dominance in the mining and critical mineral industry. Rare earths are a group of 17 metals used to make magnets that turn power into motion for use in electric vehicles, wind turbines, and electronics. China is the world's top miner and processor of rare earths. Still ahead, Fanling Golf Course wins UNESCO award. Fatal shooting in the Czech capital of Prague. Donald Trump's former lawyer Rudy Giuliani files for bankruptcy. Welcome back. The Fanling Golf Course has been awarded with the UNESCO Award for Distinction for Cultural Heritage Conservation. The Hong Kong Golf Club said the award further confirms Hong Kong's work in conservation efforts for cultural sites. Parts of the course have over a century of history, including its well-known Chinese-style pavilion. The golf course was one of the 8 selected among 48 other project entries from 8 countries in Asia. The Hong Kong Golf Club noted the award comes as an early Christmas surprise. This as club captain Andy Kwok said the club will continue to cooperate with authorities to conserve and develop the land. Overseas, the Czech Republic has declared Saturday a national day of mourning after 14 people were killed in a mass shooting at a university in Prague. The gunman has been named in local media as 24-year-old David Kozak. These kinds of incidents are rare in Europe, and the murders at Charles University is one of the worst gun crimes the country has witnessed. David Garrett reports.
The police received information at 12:20 p.m. Thursday that a 24-year-old man from a town west of Prague was planning to come to the city to commit suicide. Officers went to Hustun and found a dead man believed to be the shooter's father. The suspect had headed to the university's philosophy department where he studied. Police evacuated Charles University's Faculty of Arts building where the suspect was due to attend a lecture. They were then called to the faculty's larger main building. As night fell, more police descended on the scene. The killer had opened fire multiple times, killing and wounding at random. Students were escorted from the building in single file. Police were filmed on the balcony searching for bombs. The gunman shot himself as police approached him on the roof. Ambulances entered the cordoned-off area to treat the dozens of injured. Investigators continued working through the night and into Friday. This man owns a restaurant nearby. He helped to clear the area.
The guys from the special forces told me that the attack is happening in the faculty, which was for me even more stressful because my daughter was over there. It means I hid it over here. I took my bulletproof vest and I started to call immediately my daughter, but she was not responding.
His daughter was not hurt, but like many students, struggled to understand what she had witnessed. Students around the city were asking friends if they were still alive.
I really can't even come to understand what's happened here today.
And I think everyone was just in a state of shock. Again, these things don't happen here.
The President, Prime Minister and Interior Minister spoke to the country. They sent their condolences, designated Saturday as a national day of mourning and ruled out terrorism as a motive. Prime Minister Peter Fiala went to the site to lay flowers this morning. The details of what happened and why it happened are still emerging. David Garrett, TVB News.
Rudy Giuliani has filed for bankruptcy. The former mayor of New York has been ordered to pay $148 million to 2 election workers from Georgia who he falsely accused of fraud. He's claimed debts worth over $150 million. The 79-year-old says his assets are worth at most $10 million. Giuliani will appeal the defamation verdict. His lawyer said he could not be expected to pay such a high amount. The 2 female Georgian election officers received threats after Giuliani wrongly accused them of fraud. As Donald Trump's personal lawyer, he led efforts to keep Trump in the White House when Trump lost the 2020 election.
As a friend of mine said,
health officials in Gaza said the Israel-Hamas war has led to the deaths of over 20,000 Palestinians. The figure amounts to nearly 1% of Gaza's pre-war population. This comes as a report from the United Nations and other agencies showed that more than 500,000 people in Gaza, a quarter of the population, are starving. Despite the urgency to address the crisis, a UN Security Council vote on aid deliveries and terms for a ceasefire was delayed again late on Thursday after days of high-level negotiations. The United States, which has veto power, has pushed back against calls for an immediate ceasefire and giving the UN sole responsibility for inspecting aid deliveries. Israel, citing security grounds, insists it needs to be able to screen goods entering Gaza. The U.S. said it would back a revised resolution that calls for creating the conditions for a ceasefire rather than an immediate end to fighting. Another vote is set to take place later today. For one American family with deep roots in Gaza, the war is hitting home especially hard after relatives were killed by Israeli forces. This story from NBC News.
On a suburban street in New Jersey, the pain of a war thousands of miles away is unmistakable.
Tell me about Esma.
Esma, she's a beautiful young lady. Excuse me. Young mother raising two kids. Her kids were orphans. I'm sorry.
Mohammed Shahaber has lived in the U.S. for nearly 30 years, but he was born and raised in Gaza. On Monday, the IDF bombed his hometown Sabra. He says this is video of the aftermath.
They hit the neighbor's house next to my father's house. And the walls jumped, and Esma just collapsed.
Dozens of extended family members, he says, including Asma, were in the building.
Is that an area where they thought they would be safe?
Yes, because we've never been bombed by any war before.
Now he believes that many are still buried under the rubble.
You can't even get to them.
You can't. There's no equipment. There's no diesel.
He says more than 100 of his extended family members and friends have been killed in Gaza this week alone. Like much of what is happening there, it is hard to verify the details of Mohammed's story, but the grief is undeniable.
Even the house that it got destroyed, I grew up in it. All my childhood gone. I have no childhood left.
Mohammed and his wife Mona struggle to be hopeful about Gaza's future.
Does a war like this increase support for Hamas?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. They're not solving the problem. The Israelis have to stop bombing.
If President Biden was sitting in this chair where I am right now, what would you say to him?
I would beg him, please stop. One phone call, stop it. Mr. Biden, you can do it. He's going to create more problems, more hatred.
Mohammed says living here, he experienced peace for the first time. He worries his family back home will never get that chance. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
Japan has finalized its record 7.7 trillion yen defense budget for the 2024 fiscal year. The approved budget keeps Japan on track to boost military spending by 43 trillion yen over 5 years. The 2024 budget for the year represents an increase of about 17% from the previous year. It includes over 200 billion yen to strengthen cyber capability, as well as funding to start building ballistic missile defense warships. A cold wave that began earlier this week has brought extensive snowfall and freezing temperatures to mainland China. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Northern and northeastern parts of China have experienced blizzards and record-breaking cold since last week. Some areas in the northeast have hit minus 40 degrees Celsius and below. China's north, including the capital Beijing, Hebei, Tianjin, Henan in Mongolia, and northeastern provinces Liaoning and Heilongjiang have logged their coldest ever temperatures for the middle of December. State broadcaster CCTV showed massive blocks of floating ice in many parts of the Yellow River in Shaanxi province, a major coal-producing region in northern China. In Datong City, workers braved freezing temperatures, checking the condition of local railroads and using quartz sand to increase friction between the train and rail track amid heavy snow. In Weihai, a city in China's eastern province of Shandong, an array of snowplows were deployed to clear snow-blanketed roads. Meteorologists say the significantly low temperatures and the longer duration of the current cold wave suggests a possible leak in the circular band of cold air moving around the Arctic, known as the polar vortex. The vortex normally wraps closely around the North Pole and keeps the Arctic air from invading lower latitudes. Debate remains over whether such weakening in the polar vortex has become more common and the direct role played by global warming in the frequency of their occurrence. While China still forecasts new temperature lows this week, weather patterns are set to improve. The mercury is expected to rise to reach over 10 degrees Celsius in much of the country's central and eastern regions on Monday. A round of warm air will begin to flow from the country's north to south, lifting temperatures. The warmer conditions are expected to last until the end of December, resulting in hotter than usual temperatures in most parts of the country for this time of the year. Dan Roll, TV News.
In central Japan's Aichi Prefecture, visitors can observe a bunch of sleepy-looking Yakushima macaques gathering around a bonfire at a zoo. The Japan Monkey Center's winter tradition begins from today, the winter solstice. Monkeys are supposed to be afraid of fire, but they were seen grooming and cuddling each other while gathered around the bonfire. Sweet potatoes were backed with the fire to offer these animals a treat. The bonfire tradition began in 1959. It comes after staffers built a bonfire with fallen trees and driftwood, attracting curious young monkeys to approach the fire. That's the news. Happy winter solstice. Bye for now.